I love that intro.
I know, man. I tell you what,
Awesome.
we it's wow, she's good. That's all I can say.
Yeah.
Folks, welcome to another edition of a show with no name, not to be confused with a horse with no name. I don't know, man. I'm sorry. I hope you notice we're trying to take it up a notch with a little bit of an intro. And I want to give a shout out to Hallie Claire Weems for her just exceptional skill at, you know, I just said to her, can you make something that has, some just sort of iconic African Americans and Latinos, and just kind of got out of the way
Yeah.
and just said, let me know when you got it ready, and here's what it's for. And she's just really good at that. So if anybody that wants that kind of work done, hit me up. Anyway, man, I was really puzzling, Arturo, over just what we might talk about today, which, by the way, my cohort here, Arturo Dominguez, investigative journalist. Decolonized Journalism is his newsletter. And, I'm just kidding. Actually, today is almost tailor-made for me to just step aside and let you cook, my brother. I'm gonna do this. I'm going to I saw this, and honestly, as soon as I saw it, I thought of you. And folks, just hang on for a second. You'll know what I mean.
And breaking news into CNN, Cuba's electrical grid has suffered a complete and total collapse. This is according to the country's power operator. It's the first nationwide blackout since the U.S. effectively shut off the flow of oil to Cuba.
Okay, there we go.
Yeah, it's actually the second complete island-wide blackout since the oil embargo, and I think the third one since November, so something like that. But
wow,
yeah,
what on earth? How? I don't even know why we're doing this, but I mean that's pretty much in line with everything right now.
Yeah,
but what the hell, man? What's going on?
Yeah, it's the same thing for the last 67 years. The only difference is you have, an outright fascist in office who
a madman behind the wheel,
doesn't care about, killing a bunch of people. So, yeah, essentially the oil blockade is, crippled the island. Power's back on. I don't know how long it'll last, but it's back on island-wide. There's still lengthy blackouts, particularly overnight when the solar system isn't active. But and they still have rolling blackouts here and there that could last hours. But yeah, the oil blockade's crippling the hospital system, food distribution networks, transport networks, the transportation system is all but collapsed at this point. Things are tough on the island, but the message that I've been getting is, Cubans find a way, and that's essentially where
we've only been doing this for 60 years.
Yeah, 67. Yeah.
Oh man, I just saw that, and as a human being, you have to know something like this, people are going to die behind it, and it's not going to be the people in leadership. I'm sure they got generators or whatever. But, I had to go in the hospital back in January. Nothing serious, just, infection, broken leg, all that stuff. I've told this story before. I can't even imagine if it was something really serious and I'm in the hospital and all of a sudden there's a blackout.
Yeah.
I just don't know how. Trump is going to be gone one way or the other in a few years, one way or the other. Sooner the better. But, that's another story.
Yeah.
And it's not like America can just say, oops, we elected the wrong. I mean, to me, our entire reputation, just as a country. I mean, like, the way people look at us on the outside. I don't even want to be associated with it, man. I mean, I got no plans to go outside the country, in the
Right.
next, depending on how the midterms go.
Well, I said it. I said it the other.
You make plans, man, because
Yeah, I said the other day, or it might have been yesterday on social media, that I love my country for the people. My
Yeah.
family, my friends, my
this,
community.
right,
But I'm not a fan of my government, and
dude.
we really need to separate ourselves from our government as much as possible.
As it's a shame, but I am looking at America these days the way I separate Israel and Jewish people.
Yeah,
You know what I
yeah,
mean? I mean,
yeah.
because we're not doing good right now. And if it is, it's almost like they don't want us to know. This is the image that they want to portray to the world.
Yeah,
That,
yeah.
we just don't give a shit. We'll just, fuck over anybody, I guess.
Yeah, it's hard to just try to imagine how anyone can look at our government, whether in or out of this country, and see it as benevolent in any way. Between funding genocides, funding apartheid, sanctioning Cuba, starving Cubans. We don't have the best track record, and our government.
Man, I'm sorry. I'm smiling because I just, as you were saying, rattling this stuff off, I just thought about, we let all these, South African refugees in and I don't know what, 6 or 8 months ago, and they couldn't fucking hang. They were like, what? Let's go
They
home.
said,
Let's go home. It's too expensive and it's dangerous over here.
Right. The funniest thing that I saw was when they said the United States was too dangerous. I'm like, y'all come from apartheid. Like, what? It's gotta be bad. It's gotta be bad.
Has to be like, come on, America, get a mirror.
That's pretty bad. I mean,
when the South Africans, these guys, what was their reasoning? They were escaping persecution, and people people were burning their farms and taking their property, and they went back to that.
They wanted to be victims so bad.
You know what? We didn't know how good we had it.
Yeah, apparently. I mean, better quality of life, cheaper cost of living. I mean, they had a whole list of reasons. It's fucking funny.
Thanks, but no.
And like I said this last week. I'm like, I'm not sure who got slapped in the face harder, them for pretending to be persecuted and having to flee, or did we get slapped harder when they smacked the shit out of us on the way out?
Dude, I think it was us.
It's hard.
I really do.
That was a slap.
And it'll just roll off of the backs of the people in charge like nothing.
Yeah.
They'll blame something. It'll probably be DEI. They got over here and saw the DEI, and that's why they left. I don't know. It's always there's always an excuse.
I'm pretty sure they probably have some form of health care over there, and we don't. So
well,
most countries do.
Well, and they probably, as bad as they thought they had it, there's probably like I don't know, close to zero chance that if they go to Walmart, they're not going to get shot.
Right.
If their kids aren't going to get shot at school, probably. I mean, I'm thinking that the odds are somewhat lower than they are here.
Yeah, I would imagine. I mean, I know, South Africa, like any other country or whatever, has shitty communities or whatever, but it seems like they got it made over there compared to, to white folks.
Man, listen,
I don't know.
That might be on my short list, because those dudes were like, oh, wait a minute. No.
Yeah.
We're going back. It's yeah. So, I just made the comment that they always have an excuse, and I was thinking of Tulsi Gabbard yesterday.
Oh my God.
She's always been weird, okay? And and she's got that streak that looks like something makes, like X-Men superhero kind
Yeah,
of
yeah. I always think of
you
X-Men.
know,
Yeah,
like Storm or just one of
Right.
these characters. And she's always talking like really just, and she's spooky to me. And I remember when she was a Democrat running in the primary, talking about America and these stupid wars and forever wars and selling T-shirts and all that.
yeah.
That had to be pretty uncomfortable for her yesterday, because the way the part, I didn't see it. I just listened to some of it on Sirius, and I guess she, everybody has like their written statement that they give out of what they're gonna say, and she had in there that we bombed Iran back in, what was it, June or July, and they don't have any nuclear weapons. There's no evidence that,
Right.
so it's basically all the opposite of what Trump and everybody else is saying. And then she gets in the hearing and just kind of skips over that part when
Right.
she's giving her testimony, like she didn't think anybody was going to notice.
Yeah, she what I found really interesting was, one, she was all in on trying to make it sound like the same Hegseth, Marco Rubio, Donald Trump rhetoric, right? She was trying to play off all these different things that are just factually not true. And it just reminded me a lot of when she was trying to manipulate the intelligence on Venezuela to try to link Maduro to some sort of organized crime. And a bunch of people got fired because they wouldn't toe the line for her and stuff like that. But then I was noticing during the hearing, I had it on in the background and I was just kind of check it every once in a while. But I noticed all the other intelligence chiefs were having a real hard time trying to rationalize Trump's logic, Tulsi's logic, and reality and the intelligence report.
Yeah.
And
don't
those
forget
guys,
to put reality in there. Right.
Those guys were struggling. Like you could almost see the sweat beating on their forehead every time they had to answer a question. For Gabbard, it just seemed like it was so easy for her to lie. Like she had her stuff
dude, I'm telling you, I don't know. I have heard bits and pieces of her, sticking with the superhero theme, her origin story. And it's like she was in some sort of I don't know if it was a cult or just some strange religion or something. And whenever I see her, it's like she's talking like she's seeing some shit we don't see. She can see a different dimension or something. And she just seems like she's just out there, really. And
I mean,
it's scary to think that she is the director of national intelligence.
Yeah.
Yikes.
That is very scary. And it reminded me a lot of, Kristi Noem's hearing that led to her being removed. But I don't.
But Tulsi's smoother with it though.
Right. She didn't crash out like Noem did. And at first I thought, especially when they called her out for omitting that part of her opening statement, I thought, oh, she's toast. Like Trump's gonna, chuck her out of there. And then she sounded just like him. And I thought, well, no, she's going to keep her job. So, yeah, I think as long as she's towing the line, they don't really care what she said previously. You know what I mean? As long as she's willing to manipulate intelligence reports, lie about intelligence reports, this is the kind of harmful stuff that gets said and done in oversight hearings that are really dangerous, one-sided narratives. There was a lot of Islamophobia. A lot of, who was it? Tom Cotton mentioned the Muslim Brotherhood, and it just reminds me of the rhetoric that's starting to pick up here in Texas where they're, Republicans are running on fighting Sharia law. And I'm like, does anybody fall for this anymore?
It's honestly like they just got a little book with all of the racist and bigoted buzzwords, and it's kind of like Sharia law. And if that doesn't work, then trans, and just fill in the blank, right?
Yeah.
It's just like, and it appears to work for them. That's the scary part. And that's really, to me, a big reflection on Democrats, because if you can't figure out how to counteract this bullshit after 10 years of hearing it, come on, we got to get some new people. We're going to need a bigger vote.
Right. I mean, we need some, you know, hate to use old redneck term, but some firecrackers, you know, that are leading the party, you know, like
I thought you were going to say something else.
no, I'm not going to go that far.
No, I'm not. I mean, I'm just saying, you know, this is a family show.
Yeah.
No,
but
it is not.
I think it's, yeah. I mean, we need leadership that's like willing to take risks. You know, when Al Green brought up articles of impeachment, like almost immediately.
So wait, Al Green is gone now, right? Or is he? Is he still? He's still in office, but
He's
didn't they
still in
like?
office. I think
It's
there's
like they moved him out of. They did his district real
did.
funky or something.
Yeah, they redistrict his district, and like half the voters that were in his constituents before are no longer, and like his district is a little blacker and a little bit more democratic now, but it shrunk it from like 2 potential blue districts to 1, and I believe he's in a runoff with Menifee right now.
Oh, he is. Okay,
I believe so. Yeah, and you know, honestly, Menifee wouldn't be a bad replacement for Al Green.
I don't know.
But
him.
like, but well,
Excuse me.
Menifee's pretty popular here in Houston. He's been around a little bit, but you know, in local and state politics. But you know, I'm not. I don't know that I'm ready to see Al Green go. I've always loved Al Green. I've met him twice. He's such a nice guy.
And he ain't worried who gets mad. He's like, I'm filing some articles of impeachment. Y'all can do what you want to with it.
Yeah.
You know, because he's not wrong.
No,
it may not be the, you know, popular thing to do, but he sees what we see.
Yeah, and I think it was just when he filed. And I think he's filed articles of impeachment multiple times. At this point,
yeah, he's always the first guy.
Right, each time, you know, Jeffries and stuff. They're just like, just ignore it. We're not going to vote with it. Blah, it's pointless. Whatever. And I agree with Al Green when he says, and I'm paraphrasing, he says that sometimes you fight battles that you know you're going to lose, but you fight them anyway because someone has to. And that should be the logic of the Democratic Party right now. Even if you don't have
the votes. You would think that it would be. I mean, think about it like this.
If you don't have the votes to impeach Trump, at least show the country that you're putting up a fight, you know? It would be nice to
just sitting there taking
It'd be nice to see 150 Democrats sign on to that and those impeachment to the impeachment and instead of like 60. You know, it'd be nice to see a couple hundred names on there just to show people and send a message that look, we're fighting, we're trying to. Simply dismissing it as like child's play especially when it's a civil rights legend like Al Green, like, come on, man, you're not winning any friends, Jeffries. Like, that's when the way Al Green gets treated in Congress is one of the reasons why I really look down on leadership in the Democratic Party. Because that dude, I mean, dude, he's a legend here, like in Houston. I mean, Al Green. Yeah.
I mean, he's so known. Give me a little background. I just respect the guy because he speaks his mind when it's not even particularly popular.
Yeah.
You know, he's early, but I don't know a whole lot. I mean, and I assume maybe some of the folks listening may not know.
No, I mean, you know, he was part of the civil rights movement back in the day. He's always been outspoken in Texas politics, always speaking up for, you know, marginalized communities, particularly Latinos and Black folks. You know, everybody loves him here in Houston. He's just a nice guy, really just kind of, I don't know, like he's just kind of like this welcoming vibe. Like the minute you see him, like walking up to him and shaking his hand and introducing myself the first time I met him was just so easy. And he's just like a regular dude, but man, he's really intelligent, pretty smart guy, knows his stuff. And yeah, I mean, he's loud, but he knows what he's doing. He knows when to be loud and how to be loud and when to speak up. And, you know, the spectacle like of him holding that sign about, you know, Black people aren't apes or
I
think that's what it said. You know, a lot of people treated that as spectacle, but and in some ways it is, but at the end of the day, it sends a message.
But sometimes it should be, right?
Right. Sometimes you need the spectacle. I mean, everything.
I mean, I took it like back in the 60s when you saw, guys marching with signs that said, "I am a man,"
Right.
It's kind of the same vibe to me. And
Yeah.
it's really, instead of saying that, he's the problem, look at why he's having to do that. Why that
Right.
needs to be said. I'm just realizing I'm not being taken to heaven or anything. This bright light that's coming, I'm good.
It's
I'm good.
aliens.
But it's like ever since really the X-Files have stepped in, but ever since daylight saving time, there's
Yeah.
a mirror and a certain time of day, man. It just reflects all through the house. And
Yeah.
what are you going to do? I'm going to talk to my producer about that. Wait a minute. I am my producer.
Where's that showrunner, damn it?
Yeah, really. Doggone it. Where's my producer? Oh, Lord.
Yeah. So, yeah, I mean, Al Green's
Independent
cool, man.
journalism, right?
Yeah. And then what was the other thing, dude? The Cesar Chavez deal.
Now,
Man.
I don't know about this. What are you talking about?
So Cesar Chavez, the
Oh, yeah, I know
labor-
who he is.
Yeah, right.
I mean,
Okay, United Farm Workers, all that stuff. Pretty sure most people know, but recent allegations about him, doing like sexual stuff, like sexual
Wait.
misconduct. Yeah,
What?
and dude's been dead for a long time. I know.
I was just going to say, are we talking about somebody he's dead, right?
Yeah, he'd been dead for a while.
Okay.
And the thing was, okay, so like, you heard rumors, right, about these things, unsubstantiated stuff. And
they're trying to connect him to Epstein or something?
no. I don't think so. I don't think so.
Well, I
But
mean,
like there was rumors
he's
that maybe
fixing
he was-
elections from the grave, man. Anything's possible.
Yeah, there were rumors that he was inappropriate with women.
Okay.
Back in the day, and most of it was unsubstantiated. And in a world where you had all the feds, COINTELPRO spying on
sure,
civil rights
yeah.
groups. United Farm Workers was one of them. Cesar Chavez was on the list. You take some of that stuff with a grain of salt because some of it might be, just manufactured stuff. Well, the New York Times did a report recently, talked to several victims, and reported on it. And again, I read that and I thought, well, I've started thinking COINTELPRO again. And then,
well,
and
it's kind of convenient that it would come out now.
Right. But then Dolores Huerta, which was his sidekick,
Yeah.
the co-founder of United Farm Workers, from back in the day, she wrote an essay about her being one of his victims.
Wow.
And that was the nail in the coffin for me. I know a lot of people blast Huerta for supporting Hillary Clinton, whatever, call her neo-lib, whatever. At the end of the day, she accomplished a lot. And Cesar Chavez wouldn't be shit without her. She was the brains behind the operation. She's the one that handled all of the strikes, all of the, all the big magazine articles that they did on Chavez and stuff. That was her. She put all that stuff together. And she never got the appropriate credit. And I wrote a thing today, a short piece I called it On Cesar Chavez. And essentially it's, fuck him, excuse my French, that Dolores is who we should be celebrating, not Chavez. And, while I was writing it, I started, reading up on a bunch of stuff. Some of it I had already read on, just refreshing myself. And, the more you read about Chavez, the more her name comes up and the more you start to realize that, again, without her, you would never know about him. And I think he benefited from a time where, machismo was like through the roof, the Burt Reynolds, everybody wanted to look like Burt Reynolds and shit. That time, where everybody was this, man's man. And I think he benefited from that. And, at the end of the day, I think that the honors and all the accolades were, I don't know, they were put on the wrong person. Like we shouldn't have been really celebrating him as much as her. But since he was the forefront, he was the face guy, he was the face of the movement. He got all the credit. A lot of people don't realize that prior to United Farm Workers, it was, I can't remember the name of it now, but it was a union that was started by Filipino farm workers. And it was Chavez and Huerta that approached the Filipinos and joined in the first grape strike of 67, I believe it was, which led to a lot of different strikes, legislation being passed, labor rights and stuff like that. So like, he got all this credit, and, the Filipinos that started it didn't really, they were kind of pushed to the side. Huerta was pushed to the side. And, after a while, Chavez was a complicated guy. He was xenophobic for a long time, was very anti-immigrant. To the point where he set up like barricades and stuff along the border to try to close off certain areas where people were crossing the border. And, when after the whole, the strikes and stuff ended in like the 70s, he kind of took United Farm Workers and kind of made it into sort of a dictatorship type stuff where he was ousting a lot of people. A lot of Filipinos left because, they were changing their, the program, like what they're, what they were seeking and stuff. And, they went from probably 80,000 members to probably 11 or 12,000 in a matter of like 2 or 3 years. Yeah.
Wow.
During that time. And he essentially corrupted the United Farm Workers to the point where he was like trying to undermine other labor unions. Like in Texas, there was one trying to be formed, and he was trying to undermine it because he wanted to have this monopoly on the labor movement. So yeah, I mean, Chavez was always a problematic guy before all the sexual assault stuff came up. And for me, that Dolores Huerta essay was extremely heartbreaking and painful to read. And that was the nail in the coffin for him in my book. I'm done.
So it should be.
Right. And I always held Chavez in high regard. I always treated him as a guy. Yeah, he was xenophobic, but he evolved and he wasn't so anti-immigrant and all these things. But, I can't justify anything anymore. And I certainly can't rationalize these allegations. I mean, they're just they're too much. And the Dolores Huerta thing, like I said, that was the nail in the coffin for a lot of people. And anybody who's saying that the New York Times, the Zionist hit piece against Chavez and the timing and blah blah blah, they haven't read Huerta's essay.
Well, the question should always be, is it true?
Right. That's always the question. Right. You always want to believe the victims, but you always have to question whether it's true or not. And
and what I mean by that is, people saying, oh, it's a hit piece. And, it just kind of brushes or breezes by the fact that, yeah, but it's probably true.
Unfortunately, yeah, it is probably true. And Dolores Huerta's 94 or almost about to be 94. She lived a long life. She accomplished a lot of things. And she was so close to Chavez, would never, ever say a bad thing about him. She defended him through a lot of things. And to see her write that essay about him like that and
now, how recent is the essay that you're talking about?
Yesterday. It's on Medium.
Oh boy. She published it yesterday. Wow.
Yeah. Okay. The New York Times article was the day before or yesterday morning. And then yesterday afternoon, she had an essay out. And the way
she's 94.
Right.
So and she wanted to make sure the record was straight.
I think her goal was to validate the victims, defend the victims, because a lot of people were automatically questioning the validity of the New York Times story. But, United Farm Workers, LULAC, all the Latino civil rights groups have issued statements that were just like, and let me just be clear that it came across for most Latinos in this country who know anything about Chavez, it was a huge, huge shock. And it really does make you question a lot of things when you hold somebody in high regard. I wouldn't say it would be the equivalent of somebody saying this about MLK, but pretty damn close.
MLK wasn't perfect. I mean,
no, he wasn't. He wasn't.
He had affairs and that sort of. But you know what? These are human beings, and I think the mistake that we always make is we're trying. People come along and they have that whatever the special thing is, right? And we really, we want heroes, we want heroines,
Right.
and we want, and we just haven't had them. I mean, like, there hasn't really been, I guess, I know he's a politician, but in a sense, Obama's the closest thing that Black people have had to like like an MLK. I mean, like, just
Yeah.
that groundbreaking person. And, thus far, I just figure if there's anything remotely bad, in those lines, about Obama, it would already be
Oh,
out
we'd know.
there.
Yeah,
we would know, and they would.
For sure. Yeah,
There's no way
would
we could
know.
forget. I mean, the best thing they could come up with was his birth certificate, and that's just
Right.
crazy.
And that's the thing about that is like putting people on a pedestal.
Yeah.
We got to be careful with that. It happened. I was never really like a huge fan of Chomsky. I've read most of his stuff. I wasn't sold on a lot of it, but a lot of people really went out of their way to try to defend him after he was in the Epstein files. And, the argument was, yeah, he didn't do these things that, they say Trump and all them did. Okay, great. He didn't, but he participated in helping Jeffrey Epstein cover his shit up. That's just as bad in my book.
Yeah. Yeah.
And
in a way, it's worse because you already know that the
right.
guy's got he's a monster.
Right. And
Same thing with Larry Summers. I mean,
yeah. I mean, you can't put people on a pedestal like that and then treat them like they're beyond reproach. You know what I mean? Like,
yeah.
Everybody is subject to criticism. You are, I am, it's just a matter of what they're criticizing us for. We, I could speak for both of us, are not going to have these allegations come up. You know what I mean? So criticism of us is going to be
laughter.
Right. Criticism of us is going to be saying something stupid on this show. You know what I mean?
Yeah, it'll be, Marlon said such and such, and he really meant to say so and so. Yeah.
Right.
But I was actually talking to Ellie Leonard a couple of days ago, and we're just talking about Epstein, and I don't know, somehow the subject of, in New York there are these private restaurants that are perfectly legit. You just got to have a membership. And there was one, the guy that it was called Bruno's. This is back in I guess I left New York in 2012. So it was the kind of place that it was in the upper East Side, and one of my boys, guys that, I worked with back during that time. And we just kind of joke about, we could have been sitting in Bruno's right next to these guys. We just weren't in the group. Thank goodness. But
yeah,
it was the kind of place that, as I hear more about the Epstein files, it was a place you could not just show up and walk into Bruno's. You had to, if you weren't a member, somebody had to hook you up and get you in.
Right.
Okay. And I went once, and because we took a client, and me and one of my traders, and it was just 5-star restaurant, but it was in a brownstone.
Wow.
In a neighborhood, no sign. I think when you walked up, it was like, I think the guy's last name was Jemai. It's like French. And that was it. It was just his name, and everybody knew Bruno's. And dude, some of the best food I ever had in New York. But it was just elite. That's all I can tell you. That's the only way I can describe it. Just the whole ambiance was, I think I was the only person in there that wasn't worth several $1 million, and maybe my trader,
Yeah.
But anyway, all that to say, I thank goodness was not even tangential to that bullshit, you know? And but it's funny though. Same guy. That's how I first heard of Epstein. I didn't even know, because it wasn't like a name drop thing. It was just somehow you're sitting on a trading desk, and it got kind of slow, and just exchanging stories. And this guy says, yeah, there's this dude, and he's, got an island, and he's got these planes, and, he's, got a list and he's just got dirt on everybody. And I'm like, really? That sounds made up, Well,
Turned out to be true.
turned out to be true. The guy called me up,
Crazy.
when all this stuff started breaking loose, going, man, I told you.
Yeah,
Because I remembered it. It was just such a strange thing to, talk about. Like, who is what guy? Who is this guy?
Right. It's like the QAnon stuff, right?
Yeah.
The QAnon stuff.
You know what it's
turned
like?
out-
You ever
turned
see
out-
The Usual Suspects? And
Yeah,
Kaiser
yeah.
Sose. It was like one of those,
Yeah.
sort of this invisible guy, and he's got shit on everybody. But see, it really wasn't. The conversation was really more of a blackmail conversation than the whole sexual part. That wasn't even discussed. It was just that this guy had these tentacles all through Wall
Yeah,
Street,
right.
and rich people, and now we
Who
know.
was it? They interviewed somebody from the White House recently. Damn it. They asked him a question on his way out and of somewhere, and they asked him about his associations with Epstein and stuff, and he was essentially like, well, he had all these connections to Israel, had a lot of money, he's good at this and that and the other, and like everybody knew Epstein in the 80s. And we're like, did he just admit to the Epstein class? Because that's kind of what it sounded like. And that he mentioned connections to Israel on top of being this, smart money guy, supposedly.
Well, think about
It's just weird.
Like Howard Lutnick when he was just talking about the guy. And what did he say? He said he gets you in that place, and he blackmails you. And so he seemed to know a whole lot about the angle that this guy took. I actually had a video queued up about there's a podcast called I think it's Life of a CEO, and the guy interviewed Kamala Harris a couple of months ago, and I'm gonna play this, and you'll see why it's related to Epstein.
Clients and friends who the Epstein group made approaches on and failed, meaning they tried to get them and failed. I'll give you one story without naming the person. He goes to meet with Epstein in New York to ask for money for a charity. And Epstein is perceived as this big billionaire, which he was not, by the way. And Epstein is in a robe, and they're across the desk just like you and I are. They're finishing the meeting. He says, hey, I'm going to get a massage, hence my robe. You want to get a massage? And through the hallway, my friend can see a massage table and a room and a very cute girl who's the massage therapist, right? Dressed like a massage therapist. And so he happened to say no. A lot of people would say yes, and might even think it would improve my relationship with this guy, Jeffrey Epstein, who I perceive as this rich guy that I'm trying to get money from my charity. Had that happened, what a different world for that person. What a different life. Because in that room is cameras and then eventually audio. It didn't start off with audio, but audio was added later. And then you're getting a hand job, if I'm allowed to say hand job, from somebody who you don't even think about their age, but turns out to be 17. And you are in a world of trouble for the rest of your life. And that's a big piece of what was going on with Epstein, with cameras in that apartment in New York, and eventually audio, cameras and eventually audio at the island. My take on it, and certainly my public take, is that there was a profound blackmail operation going on to the benefit of probably more than one government, but at least one government.
So there you
Pretty
go.
astounding.
Yeah, and that was the game. And maybe it's 'cause I'm from the country, man. Something like that, I would be like, oh, this is too good to be true. No. I would be so out of there, dude.
Yeah, it's crazy because
It's so no.
yeah, we
That
heard
kind of stuff
stories,
does not happen to you
right? Like we
for
heard
no
stories
reason.
about this stuff, and we treated it like it's an alien story because it sounded just so far-fetched. And then the QAnon stuff started coming around, and the thing about QAnon was that it was a misinformation out. They were trying to pin everything on Democrats when it's really basically everybody. But
Well, yeah, it's anybody with enough money to be
Right.
in that upper echelon where
Money and
money's
power,
not the
yeah.
object, And it's all about, exchanging power and hooking each other. And if that's all it was, that's kind of, skeevy, but okay. But then to throw the whole sexual abuse thing in,
Yeah.
and that's how a guy like Epstein, I'm convinced Donald Trump has something, because there's just inexplicable behavior going on in
Right.
the Republican Party. And it cannot be everybody just scared of Trump. I mean, think about it. These are grown ass men, and they're acting
Yeah.
like they're just shaking in their shoes over this. And I'm
like
just convinced that Trump has stuff on Lindsey Graham.
I was just thinking
I
Lindsey
mean,
Graham.
Yeah. Come on. This
Mike
dude,
Huckabee. I mean, come
Mi-
all of them.
man, I have said
know,
before, I used to, look, I
know.
wasn't friends with Mike Huckabee, but I was close enough to observe his behavior. He's not even remotely like he used to be when he was in Arkansas. I
I know.
actually
I
met
saw
him
him.
several times when he was the governor.
Yeah.
Not the
I
same
saw
kind of
him-
guy.
I saw him in a video clip. I can't remember what it was. He was walking with somebody, maybe Netanyahu, whatever.
Mm.
But I saw him trying to be all Mr. Ballsy badass, and I keep thinking of the stories you told, and I
It's
just start laughing.
I
I'm like,
mean,
nerd.
man, I'm telling you, for folks who hadn't heard it, first time I met this guy, I had just started my brokerage firm in Arkansas. So I'm out there trying to connect wherever I can, and he had just gotten elected lieutenant governor.
Mm.
And he took a meeting with me, and he at the time, and I know it's hard to believe now, he was the only Republican in the whole state house. Everybody, Clinton had become president, but the governor, Republican, pretty much the entire legislature, as I recall, was Democratic. And so, he was an oddball, odd man out, whatever you want to call it. And, they assigned him to the smallest office, and he was just a country preacher. And I think he was probably surprised that he had won. And that's how he ended up becoming governor the first time, was because the guy who had been lieutenant governor moved up when Clinton won, and turned out he was a crook. I know it's a surprise, but I mean, what he did was some sort of fraud, because it was in the era when cable television stations were getting the licenses were getting handed out, and there was something that he did. But I'll tell you what, man, his name was Jim Guy Tucker. That's like as down home as you can get, Jim Guy.
Yeah. Yeah.
And he was a nice guy. He took a meeting with me, but Huckabee was just like a guy who'd come to town for the first time. I'm not playing. Polyester suit, all that stuff.
That's funny.
But hey, it worked out for him.
Doesn't he had ties to the Duggar family, right? The 19 kids and counting, whatever. Anyway,
man,
the kid.
Can we not?
Yeah,
Woo,
I cannot believe
that
this.
that is like for people who are always pointing the finger at, saying, I mean, like you said, the whole QAnon thing, bless you. The whole QAnon thing was really built to show that Democrats were the, pedophiles and whatnot. And man, every time I look around, there's a Republican, getting caught doing something stupid with a kid or something.
Yeah, there's a website called whoismakingnews.com.
Mm-hmm.
And it tracks like these, sexual assault cases with minors.
Right.
And the purpose of it is to point out that essentially that, drag queens and trans people aren't a threat.
They're not who we need to be concerned about.
Yeah. And inadvertently, the website highlights just how many conservatives compared to Democrats are involved in this stuff. And I mean, it's the contrast is pretty dramatic. There's a lot more Republicans. There are some people who are registered Democrats and stuff on there, but at the end of the day, it boils down to the biggest perpetrators are people who are close to you, in your family. Cops, teachers. You know, like you go down the
Mhm.
list of jobs and you're just like, oh my God. And like drag queens and trans
They're
people
not
are
even
like
on the list, really.
under 1% or a tenth of a percent on the thing, whereas like teachers, cops, or family are like way up there at the top.
Mhm.
And I was amazed at the amount of cops that were
Really?
that get caught like this. Yeah, if you go to that website, like it breaks it down by political affiliation, based on people who are registered voters or who have their party registration, and then like it'll list their occupation, like if they're a preacher, if they were a cop, a teacher, things like that. And it's just like you look at those numbers and you're just like, holy cow, man, like this isn't
Mm.
even. So yeah, like when everybody says that society's sick of culture wars, I think that's what they're talking about, because I don't think it's really identity politics and things like that. I think basic human rights for people are just like the lowest
Yeah.
bar possible. So yeah, I don't know. You see this stuff, and the thing with Cesar Chavez brings it all back up, and a lot of people are like, oh, they're trying to deflect from the Epstein files. And I was like, honestly, it's probably going to bring more attention to the Epstein
Yeah.
file.
Yeah. It's
Um,
right out of the same playbook, sounds
yeah,
like.
the same generational stuff that happened during that era. So like, yeah, it's pretty, it's a pretty ugly situation. And like, I'm just amazed, one, at how common it actually is in this country. It's probably 10 times more common than I thought it was. And the second thing that really blows me away is how many people still support these people.
Oh, yeah. Remember that
Blows me
guy,
away.
Roy Moore? Remember? He ran against,
Yeah, I remember.
ran for the Senate, and it was just one thing after another, and people still were going to vote for this guy.
Yeah,
And fortunately, he didn't win, but
I
geez,
remember Roy Moore and Jeff
yeah.
Sessions too. Like that, all these guys were just like creepy Klansmen, basically, man. Like Roy Moore was a Klansman without the Klan robe. You know what I mean? And
Yeah,
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 dude, like
he was something else.
yeah.
But
And
like,
it's just crazy that you got your Dennis Hasterts and stuff out there who like got a
oh
slap on the
yeah,
wrist, and then dude Vince McMahon, like WWE, that
mm,
dude hasn't paid any price, and there's a lot of allegations about him with what did they call them, ring kids or something like that? Like I
what?
don't know, dude. Some weird shit was going
Okay,
on. Some shit was
ring
going on in
kids.
WWE. Yeah,
Jeez.
it's just weird, and like
Okay,
I don't
I
know how
never
people get
thought
away with this.
changing the subject to Iran was going to be like,
Yeah.
let's talk about Iran, can
Let's
we?
do that.
You know, wait a minute, I'm going to go take a quick shower, and then,
Yeah, right.
man,
No kidding.
I
No
mean,
kidding.
honest, no, seriously, Iran is just,
Embarrassing us.
it's embarrassing. And honestly, if we get out of this, and I'm not just saying this like, hyperbole, if we get out of this without some sort of a global, you know, um,
Yeah.
something like the great financial crisis, because this, I think, is worse because, you've got all this violence involved. And it, to me, really highlights how dumb these people are.
Yeah.
They don't know what they're fucking doing. I have heard stories that it went something like this. So we're negotiating with Iran. Now, mind you, we've had how many negotiations with them going all the way back, pre-Obama. And
Yeah. Right, yeah.
what we typically have in the room is physicists and guys that understand nuclear energy, yeah, experts. Experts.
Yeah.
And Iran, that's who showed up for their meeting. That was the folks they brought to the table. And we had Jared Kushner and Steve Witkoff.
Yeah.
So we
it's
got
embarrassing.
the Trump's son-in-law who, this guy figured out how to like run a newspaper into the ground before,
Yeah.
when he's in New York. I don't know anything about him in terms of him being a successful businessman pre his father-in-law becoming president of the United States. And then you got Steve Witkoff, who's a real estate guy, from what I can tell. And they're sitting across the table from probably the top scientists that Iran has and the top negotiators that they have. Now, there's a story in The Guardian today, I guess. I saw it this morning. It may have come out last night. And they're quoting people. Apparently, there were some people from the UK that were involved in some of these meetings. And they're saying that Iran offered essentially to just get rid of all of their, enriched uranium and all of this stuff, basically to get out of the nuclear business, pretty much. And the next thing you know, we're bombing them.
Yeah.
And, I mean, the folks that were in the meeting said they were shocked at how much Iran was willing to give up.
Yeah, they accepted all of the U.S.'s terms, which was unheard of. Nobody expected.
And it's like, nah, we're just playing. And so we go bomb the hell out of. I mean, this is. You know what? I've got like a little. It's not my best work, but I want people should see, like, this Strait of Hormuz. This is it. Okay, right? I mean, what people don't understand is, we always think about oil coming out, but what we don't think about is how much this is stopping food from going in. So this is literally cutting off a significant amount of the supply of, everything from, how you hear about Ukraine being the bread basket or something, because they got, what is it, wheat and barley and all this stuff. It can't get in. So you're going to start pretty soon seeing some repercussions, not just with energy, but with, feed and, food stuff. All this stuff is just stopped.
Yeah. I read a thing about fertilizer, the urea that comes through the Strait of Hormuz.
Oh,
and,
by the way, man, y'all, it is the Strait of Hormuz.
Straits.
Not straits. It is not the straits. There's just one strait. It's not STAR, GHT. It's not, no. It's the Strait of Hormuz. That's what it is. And by the way, for Trump to be sitting up saying nobody told him, here's another one of my little hand. I'm doing like that dude on Morning Joe. I got all these charts. Okay, this is the tanker war. The tanker war, when I first got in the business, I was a bond salesman. The tanker war started right about the time I got in the securities business. Everybody knows about this. Even if you weren't alive, everybody knows. And this is the timeline. This happened during the Iran-Iraq war. And everybody knows the Strait of Hormuz is like the choke point. It's really, I'm sure there's another one somewhere in the world, but this one, as far as I know, is just the most consequential choke point in terms of energy and food and just transport in and out of the Middle East. And so nobody should have had to tell Trump about this. If you're president of the United States, you're supposed to already know this shit.
Right.
I know it. And there is like a 0 chance of me ever being president, but I know about it. And, I'm just a dude in North Carolina. So they have stepped off into something. I'm telling you, man, I don't know how we get out of this. And the gall, they've already spent close to $13 billion.
Yeah. And they're asking for 200 billion more.
They're asking for 200 million. I'm sorry, bill. It's hard for me to even say it. $200 billion. And you got people around here can't even pay their bills, trying to figure out how they're going to pay for their insurance because we've cut insurance. So we got money for this, but we ain't got money for people to have health insurance.
Yeah, they say it would cost us about $20 billion a year to end homelessness. So we could end homelessness for 10 years with that money.
I mean, obviously, we don't want to.
Right. Yeah. And you know, the thing about the fertilizer too, like I was reading a story about how farmers are weighing whether to plant corn, which requires a ton of fertilizer per acre, or soy, which requires very little because soy is basically self-fertilizing essentially. And they're already predicting something like I don't know how many tens of millions fewer acres of corn in the US this year than last year, and something like 40 something percent is supposed to be used for ethanol for fuel.
Mm.
So that's going to create like shortages of corn in the US or export corn. I don't even know, but it's just ridiculous that, you know, there's farmers that are might lose their shit because they're having to plant soy instead of corn, or you know, they're by the time a decision gets made of what happens with the strait, those seeds are already going to be in the ground, and you know, you can't take them back out once you
I mean,
plant them.
stop and
So,
think about just the disruption that Trump and his people have managed to just visit upon us. We
yeah,
got tariffs over here, just running up the price on everything from food to, you know, whatever. I'll tell you what, these headphones that I'm wearing, I think they were made in China. And, you know, when I first got them, I got a lot of different stuff. And I thought there might be a short in my plug, right? Well, it turns out it was something else. But I bought them on Amazon and I was going to return them. They said, "How about if we give you $45 to keep them?" I kid you
really,
not. They paid me to keep, because it's
it's
probably
cheaper.
it's cheaper for them to just give me some money to keep them instead of them taking them back and sending them wherever and getting, you know, some fresh ones. So think how crazy upside down that is. I mean, on the other hand, I'm going through everything that I've bought on Amazon, you
Yeah,
know, and just going, I'm sending this back. What do you say? And I'm sorry, man. The trader, I think I found an arbitrage. You know,
there you go.
I have to send it back to Amazon and see if they'll pay me to keep. As a matter of fact, this shirt that I'm wearing, now that I think about it, probably made in China. I bought a couple of t-shirts. You know, I like t-shirts from TV shows and all that stuff. And I bought two of them from this company. One of them fit fine. The other one was like mislabeled or something. And so I was going to send it back. They said, "Don't worry about it. Keep it. We'll send you another one." And I just gave it to one of the kids and said, you know, you can
Yeah,
wear it for pajamas or whatever, you know. So
yeah,
yeah, man, I'm looking at the clock. I'm telling you, the
I would
time.
quit.
Well, the problem is there's so much shit that's wrong. There is
Yeah,
plenty to talk about, and it just goes. But you know, folks, we really appreciate you showing up and listening to us vent every Thursday. And you know, if you aren't already, if you look at the bottom of the screen, you can see there's how you find the journeyman and how you find Arturo Dominguez, Decolonized Journalism. And you know, subscribers make this possible, and it is you know, it's fun, but it's work, and you know, we try to be good at this and try to be you know, as accurate as we can with the things we say and the stuff that we write. And you know, we need your support to keep it going. So if you're able, please become
absolutely.
a subscriber. Please become a paid subscriber if you can. We certainly know that it is, you know, it's bad out there and getting worse. So we understand, but at the same time, you know, when you look at what's happening with traditional media, it's you know, I'll put it this way: we're the best deal in town. We're cheaper than a cable subscription for sure. So
Yeah,
if
for
you can,
sure.
if you can help us keep this thing going, we would certainly appreciate it. And Arturo,
Marlon.
I guess I'll see you on the other side, buddy.
All right, man.
Try to stay out of trouble. I know
I
you're in
will.
Texas, man. I'm a little bit safer in North Carolina, but not by much. So
I'm always in trouble with somebody.
so you know what? I'm going to do something special since we got the new intro. It's gonna be our outro today too. So for folks who didn't hear, my daughter is she's in the aside from being an excellent artist, she's also really a good at she's just a great creator all the way around. So I hope you guys enjoy the outro. And hey, if you need that kind of work, hit me up, as I say. So take care, folks, and we'll see you on the other side.
Bye, y'all.